I start with my story. So my story is has very many different layers to it. And the first one, I was diagnosed with epilepsy when I was 14, 15. But at that point, I didn't know how to assert myself and how to, I was put on medication because everybody said that that's the thing that needed to be done. And I knew that I brought the epilepsy on myself. I was very, very unhappy at that point. I had lost my grandmother and my great-grandma, who I had grown up with in the year before, and I didn't know who to turn to and who to talk to. And I spent every night in bed praying that I could go to the hospital, because I thought at the hospital somebody would see me and see that I needed help to process my emotions, to understand what was going on with me and how to deal with the pain. And so the epilepsy was how that manifested in a way. And I think that we are all born into a body, and that body has certain cracks that we inherited from the previous generations, or that things that had happened in our life that made it crack a little. And sometimes these cracks don't come into, that you never notice them because you move on and nothing happens. But in my case, I had so many stored up emotions that I didn't know, that I'm sorry, I can't turn up the sound more. I've tried. This is the best I can do for now. Maybe I can figure out something better for next time. So in this, with this, I had all these stored up emotions in my body, and they needed to come out. And because I didn't know how to process them and I didn't know what to do with them, they came out in this epilepsy. But I started to take the medication because at that point, that's what people told me I had to do. And I was 14, 15. I didn't know how to do anything else. But I always knew that at some point I would have to reverse that, and that I could reverse that. And it took a long time, until I was in my 40s, 42 to be exact, that I actually dared to make that move and get off of medication and trust myself that I can stop the seizures and can actually live a free life. But before I got to that, I already started changing my life drastically. I had, from my 20s to 30s, I drank a lot. I was very unhappy. I was very depressed, which I think had a lot to do with my autism that was undiagnosed and unrecognized, and I just didn't know how to be me in this world. And then in my late 30s, I started taking classes in Ayurvedic medicine and started to embark on my healing journey. And that in that process, I started changing so much. When I started, I just did it out of curiosity because I wanted to learn more, I wanted to understand more, but I didn't know how much I actually needed it. And that really changed things for me, because up until that point, I thought I was actually fine. I had gut issues all my life, and I didn't know it because I was so used to it and to feeling that way and to feeling things not moving through my body the way that they were supposed to. And I thought I was fine. I actually thought I was fine. That was the most scary part. And then I started changing my diet. I took some supplement. I started changing my life. I stopped drinking. I stopped smoking. And I realized how much better I could feel. And from that moment on, where I realized how much better I could feel, just by changing the way I sleep and the way I eat, I was wondering what else is possible for me if such a different world can happen within a very short time. And then from there, like a year or so later, I started to have a frozen shoulder. And that was the worst pain I've ever had in my life. And I couldn't move at all. And at that point, I think I learned about visualization and the idea of imagining yourself healed. And I remember how far that actually seemed from my reality and how much I was caught up in the materialistic idea of I have to deal with what is instead of this idea that I could actually create the desired outcome that I wish for. But this is what I have been using ever since because it works so well. Like we really just have to create an image of how and who we want to be, and then basically reverse engineer things. Start with the image of where we want to go, who we want to be, what we want to be, and think about the steps we have to take to get there instead of looking at what is. And with that technique, I've healed several things like a rash on my hand, and I'm healing my ear. Now I have a chronic ear infection and other things. But what also helped me, and that is something that is not so well known at this point, is the wheel of colors and how to use colors as well to heal. Because we have a lot of sound healing, we have a lot of energy healing, Reiki healing. People are working with numerology and all of these things, but colors are super important as well and can really help us heal and help me heal because we each have a color for healing, for example. We each have a color that helps us with manifesting. We each have a color that tells us our gift and what we came to share with the world and all these different things. And we can use these colors consciously in order to heal our lives. So this is a part of my story, and now I'm happy to answer your questions.